Welcome everyone to Power Hour number 6. We're here today with our CEO of Nansen, Alex Savanovic. Alex, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey James, good to be kind of back here. We used to do a show back in the day, which was a little bit different, but I'm excited to join this new edition of live streaming our shenanigans with Nansen.
Very nice. It's great to have you here. And for those of you that don't know, my name is James. I am a CSM for a professional user base, and I'm also a community manager for the Nansen Alpha Discord. So why are we here today? Today, we want to understand, how do CEOs use Nansen? So far, we've heard from people like myself, from Charlie. We help funds, we understand how they use the platform, but now we want to understand how people like Alex use it, people that have a million things to do as a CEO. So if you're someone that's busy, this would be a great way to understand where you can best spend your time on Nansen. Then on top of that, we'd like to share what's on the horizon, sneak peeks, and a demo concept that Alex specifically would like to discuss, which involves AI. This should be quite exciting. So I think before we continue any further, I would encourage everyone to sign up for the Luma. There are 3 6-month Pioneer subs that will be given away, and the only way you're going to get them is if you've registered via the Luma. So make sure to sign up. There should be a QR code on the screen that you can scan, and you will be able to sign up there. So just before as well, we jump right into the main part of why we're here. Some of you may be completely new to Nansen, and just to give you a very quick overview of what Nansen is really about, we are here to empower investors and traders to grow their portfolio and enhance decision making. What Nansen helps you do is discover new tokens. You can get real-time updates with smart alerts, and you can understand who owns what wallets on chain. Is this address smart money, or is this address a fund or an institution? So that's what Nansen allows you to do. So I'm going to move on now, and I'm going to show you a feature that I like to use, and it's one of our newest features, and I think it's something that's going to start saving our users a lot of time. So I'm going to share my screen. And Alex, I'll be very interested to hear what you think of this new feature. Is this something that you've started using?
Yes, absolutely. Excited to dive into the product here.
Great. So it should be coming up now. Perfect. Very good. So as you can see here, I'm on the homepage for Nansen. If we scroll down the nav bar on the left-hand side, we can come to smart segments. Now, you'll want to understand what are smart segments and what can you do here. The main aim of smart segments is to find wallets that fit criteria that you specify. So what does that really mean? Well, you can find wallets that hold specific tokens, or the first holders of specific tokens, or maybe the first holder of multiple tokens. So you can find wallets that got in early on multiple tokens. And one of our latest features in smart segments was to bring in P&L filters. So how can I use these P&L filters? That's what everyone wants to know. So let's say I want to look back over the last 7 days. I only want to look on Solana because that is where most of the action happens. And let's say I want a win rate of 70%. And let's say the number of trades, the minimum number of trades I want to see them make is, maybe 3 in a week. And then the max, I don't want more than 30 in a week. For me, that would be far too much. And if you're the one creating this, you can set these parameters to what you want to see. Maybe 30 or 20 is still even too much for you. And again, maybe the minimum tokens I'll set as 3 and the max number of tokens traded I'll set as 10. Now I can generate this segment, and I have a list of addresses here that have a 70% win rate over the last 7 days, and they've traded more than 3 tokens. So this is quite interesting. These are all smart money addresses, and this smart segment is going to recalculate the data every single day. And if any of these addresses fall out of the segment, they will be if any of the addresses no longer fit the criteria above, they will be removed from the segment. And if new addresses start to meet the criteria that you have specified, they'll be added to the segment. And this means that you don't have to be looking for these new smart addresses every single day. Now, how do you track them? If we jump into smart alerts here, I set a new alert. I go to advanced alerts, and then I go to token transfers. If I select the to field and I say the custom segment, I can select my smart segments here. So that means any smart segments I can make, I can automatically track them via smart alerts, and I'll never have to go out and find these addresses again. Nansen is going to take that those steps away from me and automate them. Alex, there was quite a bit there. What do you think about this? It's kind of a new feature. Is this something that you looked at yourself?
Absolutely. So maybe just to give a bit of context on kind of firstly why we created smart segments, right? Since the beginning of Nansen back in 2020, people have used Nansen to track what people are doing on chain. But mostly people were relying on Nansen creating labels, right? So we would come up with these kind of creative labels that we would put into the product. But we always wanted to empower the users to kind of create their own labels in a way programmatically. And so this is really what smart segments allows you to do, that you can come up with your own criteria. And in some ways you can kind of, like you just showed now, James, you can create your own smart money, right? That means you get personalized alpha. It's not really necessarily alpha if everyone sees the same thing at the same time. But if you can curate your own segments with smart segments, you can really have a unique perspective on what's happening on chain. And like you were just showing now, P&L is one of the criteria that we've been asked about since the beginning. We should also mention that we've made it highly multi-chain. For a long time it was Ethereum only, but as you just pointed out, a lot of the action is happening on Solana actually, and we also have support for other EVMs as well. So so this, I think smart segments, interestingly, is like one of the perhaps less known features in Nansen, because it's a little bit complex, perhaps, when you think about it conceptually. What is this? But really, it's just a group of wallets that match the criteria that you set up, and then you can track that segment. Maybe, by the way, I like to use these live streams to kind of call out stuff we should improve in the product too. And I noticed that it said custom segment in the smart alerts. Maybe that's confusing. People don't connect the dots that it's actually the same as smart segments. We should probably just update that to smart segments in the UI. But essentially, this is something that I really would encourage everyone to play around with a lot. You can also see basic stats, right, on the segment, how many wallets actually fit the criteria. And so playing around with different smart segments, and you can even inspect them in Profiler, as you see there with the button view in Profiler, which is pretty cool as well. So I think it's an underutilized feature, but the people who do know how to use it tend to really love it, and they keep using it a lot.
Yeah, very nice. And on top of that, I think something that's important to touch on here is, as you could see, we can take these smart segments and set up smart alerts with them. Recently, we upgraded our smart alerts, and we improved our latency by multiple factors. Before, sometimes there was a delay, maybe there was a couple of minutes where a smart alert hadn't come in. Now all of our smart alerts are coming in almost instantly. So I think combining this upgrade in smart segments and this improvement in our smart alert latency, this is now a very powerful combo. And I should
Yeah,
also mention that this is currently only available to our professional user base.
that's right. So just a quick note on latency, because that's a big focus for us internally in the product team. As you might imagine, we process an absolutely insane amount of data across all of the chains we have. And so it's a constant struggle to make sure that we can basically serve that data very, very quickly to our users. And so we've made a ton of investments over the last few months to make sure that the latency improves a lot. James just called out the smart alerts latency, which is improved tremendously. And if you try Solana smart alerts now, it's just day and night versus how it used to be a few months ago. But also in terms of just the web app, generally speaking, the latency is going to get a lot better as we improve it. It's something that the team is focused on right now. And you will also get into this a little bit later. But token God mode, for example, in its new version is also much snappier and more real time. So generally speaking, you can expect you can see improvements on latency in the product, but you can expect to see even more improvements on latency going forward.
They're all very good points. And you brought up token God mode there, and I think this could be a good time to segment into what you think is the most useful place to spend your time on Nansen, Alex. Because I've shown a feature here, you agree it's useful, it saves time. But if you're going on to Nansen, where do you spend most of your time? What are your favorite features?
Yeah, so maybe we can bring up my screen here and I can poke around a bit inside the product too. Let's see if I think this is probably a better resolution there. So by the way, your intro is like no pressure. Here's what a CEO with no time on their hands should do when they use Nansen. I think what I'll do is talk about some of the stuff I've been using Nansen for lately. And to me, it's often kind of thematic, a bit like your investments might be. You might be interested in a specific investment thesis for a couple of weeks or months or whatnot, and you focus on specific parts of the product, and then it changes. And so I thought we could start with something actually in some ways quite basic, but something that I've been monitoring for several months now, which is essentially the whole L1 and L2 ecosystem. Because when you go on Twitter or on X, you will see a lot of tribalism around chains. And I feel like it's very hard to get a clear sense of which chains are actually winning. And so we've created this chains overview, which shows basic metrics like active addresses, transactions, and importantly, fees, that is gas fees in total that are spent on these chains. And so if I look back at maybe the last 6 or 9 months, there's been a lot of focus on Solana and Ethereum, right? And I sometimes get criticized for being too bearish on Ethereum. I used to be an ETH maxi, actually, but this dashboard has been quite useful to understand what is actually going on, not what are people saying on X, but what is actually going on chain. And I feel like it's kind of overlooked some of these macro stats on the chains. And so the table itself is pretty useful to look at different time slices and rankings, and it's by default ranked by fees, which is how much people are paying in transaction fees to use these chains, which in some ways is kind of if you had to pick one metric to rank chains, to me that's the metric. And interestingly, Tron is the chain currently, at least the last 30 days, which has the most gas fees in total, because a lot of people actually use Tron for USDT and other things, but primarily USDT. And then Solana is number 2 and Ethereum is number 3. And it used to be the case that Ethereum was the only game in town on this metric. It used to be only Ethereum that had a meaningful amount of gas fees spent. And if you scroll down to the bottom here, you can also see a historical view on different metrics, right? So active addresses, transactions, DEX volume, and fees. And so if we look at fees, and I'm looking at base, Ethereum, and Solana, we could probably add in maybe BNB chain and probably also Tron. And you can see some interesting things like Solana, which I've highlighted here in purple. If you go back a year, it was way below Ethereum. Ethereum is a lot higher on gas fees than these other big chains. But over the last year, it's become way more competitive between the different chains. And you can see how Solana really overtook Ethereum towards the end of last year on gas fees, i.e. how much people are paying in gas fees to use the chain in total. By the way, this should not be confused with kind of how much it costs to make an individual transaction. Sometimes people, I think, perceive gas fees as that. This is total gas fees. In other words, when many people use a chain, this number goes up, right? But of course, it's still cheaper to make one individual transaction on Solana than it is on Ethereum. So it just means that a lot of people are using Solana. And I think the trade here, when you look in hindsight, was really Sol ETH. And year to date, I haven't looked at the numbers today, but it's roughly like 50. Sol is up 40 to 50% up versus ETH. And I feel like if you had paid attention to some of these on-chain metrics, that should not be that surprising, right? Because the market cap of Sol is significantly lower than Ethereum, but on-chain metrics, Solana tends to dominate, actually. And even now, right, when you look at the April data, like I said earlier, Tron has actually been number 1, but Solana is number 2, and it's quite a lot higher than Ethereum. And then, of course, people can talk about, well, that's just because a lot of the activity has moved to the L2s, but we have all the top L2s here as well, right? Base, Arbitrum, we have Optimism, and so on. And even if you add up all of the gas fees from those L2s, it still doesn't really add up to the total gas fees of Solana. All of this to say that I think looking at some of the big picture between the L1s is a good idea, because it might pull you out of your kind of echo chamber or your filter bubble with regards to what people are talking about on X. And I will admit, if I would have spent more time on this earlier, I think I would have probably made the move of selling more ETH to Sol earlier, to be honest. But so this is also a section of the product that maybe is a little bit underutilized, but it's also been improved, and we keep adding new chains to this dashboard as well. So I highly encourage folks to play around with this and check in on this regular to see which chains are actually being used. Before we move on, any thoughts or questions from your end, James, on this before we hop on to the next segment?
No, I think you covered it all pretty well. I think you probably have resonated with a lot of ETH holders. There's a lot of ETH maxis out there, ex-ETH maxis, that have now turned the other direction towards Sol. So I think you covered it quite well.
Yeah. And so like my call to action here is not necessarily go and sell ETH. It's more like try to stay on top of the on-chain metrics of these different L1s, because you can actually just see on the activity levels what's happening. I would also just call out that there are probably 2 metrics that Solana still needs to beat Ethereum on. The first one is stablecoin issuance. You still have way more stablecoins on Ethereum than Solana. And the other one is just general TVL. Although the TVL numbers are also quite skewed because of liquid staking on Ethereum, like Lido and so on. But those are 2 metrics that we should eventually get in here, and that people should be monitoring as well. All right. Why don't we go into something a little bit more tactical, and we can look at token God mode. So token God mode is one of the 2 most used features in Nansen. It has been for the last 5 years since we launched the product. Somehow people really love token God mode, and they really love Profiler, which is the place you can look up entities and addresses. But the cool thing about token God mode is that we have started overhauling it to roll out token God mode 2. And so there's sort of 2 ways to access token God mode. You can go through the tokens section here, but the more smooth way to get into it is really just to bring up the search bar, Command K, And why don't we look at who knows? You can look at Aave, you can look at a meme coin, you can look at really anything you want. But I'll show you a couple of things here, and maybe we can bring up what was the one we wanted to look at, James? Was it what was that called again? Token.
I believe it was Clanker.
Clanker, indeed, Clanker. Okay, let's see. Clanker, there we go. Token bot. That was the name that was slipping my mind. So the ticker is Clanker, and the name of the token is token bot. And so we can use this as a little bit of a case study to better understand this token and see if we see anything interesting on chain, and also to introduce certain new features to Token God Mode 2. And by the way, I should mention that we are incrementally rolling out improvements to Token God Mode, so you can expect to see new tabs come up, and we'll show you the holders tab in a moment. But we can start here with the overview, right? And if we change the resolution here on the price chart to 1 hour, we immediately see some interesting things. We see two candles here, two God candles, one around 5 a.m., 22nd of April, that's Singapore time. And then another one around midnight to 23rd of April. And so essentially, the backstory here is that quite a long time ago, it was announced that Clanker was going to get listed on Coinbase. And but it didn't actually happen before, essentially, I guess it is yesterday, or let me see what the timing here. It's basically almost exactly 24 hours ago. Does that sound right, James, in terms of the timing of the Coinbase listing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so the interesting thing is, like, this is when it got listed, and you tend to see these spikes with high profile exchanges when they list. But there is another candle earlier. And so that's kind of suspicious. Like, what's going on there? And we have this very convenient feature in Token God Mode 2, which we are calling Candlestick Inspector. And when you click the candlestick here, first click Candlestick Inspector, and then you click the candle. Now you get an X-ray vision on that candle. And the table below here brings up who bought and who sold in that specific candle, the DEX trades and all transfers that you're seeing as well. And so top of the list on who bought, essentially who kind of created that candle, is this address here, high balance. It doesn't have a very informative label, but it has that name, and it shows up as the one that has essentially scooped up the most tokens. Not a huge amount, 66,000 net US dollars. But the cool thing about Nansen is, number one, we were able to pick that up really quickly, and you can jump in to, for example, wallet profiler for token from here, and we can take a look at this wallet itself. And here we're seeing the holdings and transactions of this address, right? And let's see. I want to actually, maybe we should zoom out on the 1 hour here to make it a little bit clearer. There we go. So now you see that candle again, and you can see the actual the purchases on chain that they made. They made a big one here. Let me see if I can just. Okay, the actual bubbles don't move, but you can see the individual transactions here, what they buy, and you can also see that they sold right when the listing happened, and they had a nice little profit from that trade. So to me, this is an address that I would, probably want to add to my watch list. What should we call this high balance, James? Maybe Coinbase Clanker. Was it Clankor with an E or an? There we go.
With an E.
This.
Yeah.
Should we call it insider? I think I'll call him an insider just to make it easy. But this is not a courtroom. This is not a courtroom. But I'm gonna call him an insider because to me it looks like someone had an inside scoop on that listing and was able to purchase it before it actually was announced that the listing took place. They bought it. Let's say, what was it? About 19 hours earlier, and then they sold it right at the announcement. and they took a profit. So in fact, you can actually see it here, right? This is where they're selling it. These are the individual transactions of this address where they're swapping it on 1inch when they're selling it. And you can also see that when they were buying it, it was with through 1inch as well. And you can see their balance over time as well. So yeah, James, any reflections on this Clanker insider?
Well, I would agree with you that it's most likely an insider, especially when you see someone buy prior to a listing and then on the listing itself, they're selling. If they are a long-term holder, they're not going to be selling at the listing. Most likely, this is someone that knew the announcement was coming. And to be honest, this isn't something that's isolated to this one listing. Often you'll see this with listings. I have a good story where I sent out a loom, like a video, to my book of professional users that I help as part of my customer success role. And in the loom, I shared that Dog and Me got listed, and I was looking at all these insiders of the Dog and Me listing, and they also, like this wallet, bought unusually close to the listing and then sold on the listing. But what I also saw were a load of keycat whales. And I mentioned it in my video, and I said, this means that perhaps there is a keycat listing coming up. And not long after, keycat got listed. So I think these are, there's a lot of alpha you can find in here, especially when you can spot the patterns of what insider trading often looks like.
Totally. So one thing you might do in addition to adding it to your watch list, like I did, because now next time I see this address in Nansen, I will have my own name for it, my own label. But you could also just very quickly spin up a smart alert, and basically one click, and you have an alert set up for that address. I think I'll dox my chat ID if I punch that in, so I'm not going to do that. But I could just punch in my Telegram ID, and then I would have an alert for this address in case they want to buy something else. And in fact, you could also just click on its name here if we want to take a broader view on this address. I mean, this is where it's very tempting to go deep down the rabbit hole. We'll try to resist the temptation of going too deep, but you can play around with this and see. You can see the Clanker P&L here. They did seemingly a good trade on basis for everyone. Although it was a small amount, but you can also see what else they've been doing on chain. All right, let's hop back to token god mode, and I think there was another token we wanted to look at, right, James?
Yes, I think so. I think we can pick one from the token screener this time. If you go to the tokens page, I think it'll be good to pick one.
Right. Yeah. So we can maybe look at the smart money. Yeah, we can maybe look at the smart money volume perhaps and see if we find something interesting here, like this fart coin, which is basically the top one on Solana, at least on this specific ranking on the 24 hours. So we could potentially look at that, and this is a good chance to show off some of the new stuff that's coming in the holders tab. And this is fresh out of the kitchen, and it's still being worked on. There's some tweaks we want to make, but this is pretty cool because it allows you to do pretty advanced insights on different groups of holders of a token up here, and we'll play around with that a little bit in a second. But we also have, of course, the standard balances table, and these two things are now synced. So if you click on, say, smart money, now the chart up here updates, but also the table down here, if you want to look at the individual addresses, gets auto filtered. So this is pretty cool, where we can look at maybe a longer time range for Fartcoin. So there's a few different metrics we can look at here. I think one we were discussing separately was cost basis, for example. So cost basis effectively means, what price did they actually invest in the token at in aggregate. And this is new in the table too. It's something that a lot of people have been asking for. You can see the cost basis of individual addresses now, and we calculate that for you. So you can get a sense of, okay, this 180-day smart trader they actually have a cost basis which is relatively high, like 91 cents for Fartcoin. And the price is currently, just north of $1. So their cost base is relatively high. But then there are other ones like Sigil Fund, which has around 24 cents cost basis. So they were able to enter at a lower cost, right? And so this is pretty cool, and it's part of this concept that we try to bring with Nansen, which we call 1-second signals, right? Instead of you having to do a ton of work and calculating cost basis and have your own spreadsheet and looking at Etherscan and all this stuff, we just calculated this for you so that in 1 second you have the cost basis for any address. And if we scroll up further here, you can see now we're looking at the aggregate smart money segment. So conceptually, you can kind of think about this as similar to the smart segments we were looking at earlier. It's a group of wallets. This time it's curated by Nansen, right? These are addresses that we have classified as smart money based on their P&L and their trading history. And you can see in the purple line here the cost basis of that segment over time. And you can also see in gray the actual price of Fartcoin. And so basically what this is telling us is that the cost basis of the smart money was very close to the actual price, which means, one way to think about this is that the smart money was happy to invest at that price. And then recently, the price has basically run ahead, right? So the price is now going up, and smart money as in aggregate is in profit, right? If you think about it, comparing the cost basis versus the actual token price right now. And so this is pretty interesting. And I think if you saw a huge gap between these two things, like, the token price was super high and the cost basis was very low, that means a lot of people are in the money and perhaps they want to be taking profits. But it seems here they've been happy to invest at what you might think of as a relatively high price level for Fartcoin. James, do you kind of agree with that overall analysis and how to think about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree with that interpretation. And I suppose something I might add for context here, a lot of people arrived into the smart money dashboard in our previous version, and they said, okay, it's great, I can see a list of holders, but I don't know anything about these holders. Nansen isn't telling me unless I click through each individual one. Now we're giving this data to you first thing when you arrive. And by the way, if you're here, you're the first people to see this. We haven't actually released this yet. It will be going to our professional user base first, but 2 weeks later, it is going to be delivered to our professional user base. And I think this might be a good time to actually remind you that we are giving 3 Pioneer subscriptions away. They'll be 6 months long, and you will have access to these kind of features when 2 weeks after they're released to the professional user base. This is an opportunity for you to get in early, to dig into this data yourself. So if you haven't already, make sure you scan the QR code. It should be on the screen there, and sign up via the Luma link. Okay.
Absolutely.
Alex, I might pass it back to you. Let me know any other views here that you like.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's so much stuff we could dig into. I mean, I think it's the cool thing we've done with this widget up here, and we'll make some changes to it. It's still being worked on, but it's quite powerful because it sort of combines many different perspectives. And so in the past, we used to have a separate exchange tab, but now you can just click the exchange icon here. But because an exchange, like the category of exchange, is really just a group of millions of wallets, right? And so you can look at those same things. You can look at the balances on the exchanges. You can also look at net flows, right? And so I think actually if we zoom it out a little bit and we look at the exchange group, I think there's another very interesting trend here if we had sort of paid attention over the last months with Fartcoin, where for a while, like the gray line, as a reminder, is the price of the token, and the yellow line is, in this case, the balance of tokens on exchanges, because that's what they're looking at. So price was going down and people were depositing to exchanges, presumably to sell, right? And then you have an inflection here in early March where suddenly now tokens are coming off exchanges. Maybe people are buying them on exchanges and withdrawing them, right? And they're scooping them up, and price then starts to move up. And so you see this kind of interesting inverse correlation where, because people are scooping up the tokens from the exchanges, the price now starts to rally again. And so this is the kind of stuff that's, I think, super interesting. And, like I said, you could go down the rabbit hole on both tokens and addresses with Nansen. And there's a bunch of different metrics you can look at: number of holders, total flows, or net flows, if you only want to look at a cleaner signal of what's flowing out or into exchanges. You can look at public figures too. If you click through on that, you can see also in the table down here, like, who are the public figures that you might see on X that hold this token. When through public information, we've been able to reveal which public figures own which wallets. And then maybe one thing I'll also call out, we're going to make some changes to this, but we have this really cool distribution score. And so the idea is that you want to get a sense of how distributed is a token among many different addresses. And so I'll maybe contrast this with another example that we can look at quickly, which is Pengu. So Pengu has kind of a worse distribution score because it's more concentrated. So top 10 wallets hold 67% of supply. So it gets kind of a red indicator that it's not as distributed as many other tokens are. And so personally, I quite like this. We kind of create another 1 second signal for you to help you understand the distribution. And we also give you that explanation of why it has that score. And if you want to dig even deeper, you see multiple different metrics we use to calculate the overall distribution score. So we're going to make some tweaks to that, but it's pretty exciting, I think. And I think overall Token God Mode is sort of highlighting the essence of what people actually want to know about tokens. And it's sort of stripping away a lot of the unnecessary information that you might not want to spend time on. So yeah, that's Token God Mode 2. There's a ton of other stuff that's coming. Maybe it's a good time to kind of move into a little bit more forward-looking stuff. And one thing that I'm extremely excited about that's going to be coming relatively soon to Nansen is a Nansen score. And so similarly to the distribution score, the Nansen score is a 1 second signal, but in aggregate for the whole token. Like, imagine you had a research team that was available 24/7 and could just give you a rating on any token with real-time information, capturing a bunch of different perspectives using the best on-chain data in the world. That's kind of what the Nansen score does. And this is going to be very cool when we have it sitting probably somewhere here on the right as part of this very cool board that has a bunch of different metrics as well. But similarly, you can imagine that there is a Nansen score. You can toggle it. You can understand why it gets a certain score. And it just makes it a lot faster to create or form an opinion on a token. Because ultimately, what Token God Mode aims to do is to help you figure out, should you buy this token? Should you sell this token? Should you perhaps not take any action at all? And the Nansen score gives you kind of a rough assessment and, based on quantitative, objective data, and just a faster way to form an opinion. And then you can dig it, deeper into any aspect that you want beyond that. So yeah, Token God Mode 2, super excited about all the changes that we're making to this. And I think we mentioned it briefly as well that there's a lot of minor UX improvements, like you can sort of customize the sizing of the different widgets. You can, collapse panels if you want to have more space for the price chart. We've zoomed in the view a little bit here, so the price chart looks a little bit crammed, but on your own screen, it'll look better. And of course, the whole thing is real time. Like, it's actually much snappier and faster in terms of getting the updates on the price that you want. So yeah, James, should we move into some kind of overall sneak peeks on stuff that's coming and anything else you want to show before we dive into that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good idea. What I think I would like to highlight from what you said is we are emphasizing some of our own proprietary metrics, such as what you showed, the distribution score, the Nansen score. One other thing I would like to show is the trending on Nansen page, and I'll just share my screen now. So
Nice.
trending on Nansen has been out for a while, but it's probably gone quite unnoticed. And basically, we have created a chart that creates a Nansen mind share, and it's almost the best way to think about it is it scores tokens based on user engagement with those tokens on the platform. So if people are searching for those tokens, clicking on those tokens, things like that, this all contributes to this score. And something I'd like to point out here as well, you were talking about Farcoin. Farcoin, since like April 3rd, around April 3rd, has been the most highly ranked token for almost the entire month of April now. And I think that has been shown in the price as well. So I think there's probably going to be some alpha in here, and it's just a feature that's gone under the radar. And again, it focuses on those 1 second signals, like you mentioned, and it's Nansen based. So I think
Yes.
I just wanted to highlight that as well. We are really bringing out a lot of these newer Nansen proprietary metrics.
I almost feel like that trending on Nansen chart should be on the homepage of the product. It's actually super valuable, because if you think about it, it's sort of the collective intelligence of everyone who uses Nansen. And I'm pretty sure that people who use Nansen are a little bit smarter than the average crypto investor. And so if you know what the smartest money and the smartest investors are looking at collectively, that's pretty powerful. And so this is 100% pure, people looking at these tokens, not getting paid to yap about them or something like that. It's what people actually look at because they are interested in them as on-chain investors. So yeah, I think this is a great call out. It's a little bit hidden in the product. It's almost like it should be sitting on the homepage. But yeah, I think someone's asking where to find it. And you can go to tokens, and then there's a tab called, I think it's called trending on Nansen, right? If you scroll a little bit up. Trending on Nansen. Yeah. And then you can also see, if you just click it there again, tokens trending on Nansen. And I think if you scroll down as well, so you sort of get, you can see for different tiers too. So depending on which tier you're on, you get kind of more granular insights. And so if you're a free user, if you're a pioneer user, if you're a professional user, like there's a relatively high chance that the professional users are spending more time analyzing tokens and looking at them than the free users, for example. And so you can kind of judge it that way. If there are certain tokens maybe that are sitting there for professionals, but not for the other ones, maybe that's high alpha. So yeah, I think this is a great call out, James, and it's good to get some more eyeballs in this.
Great. Well, I think now could be a good time to jump into some of these new concepts that you wanted to speak about.
Yes.
I believe we've some exciting stuff in the pipeline, maybe things related to AI, maybe something about Nansen points. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe first, let me just try to kind of take a step back and share a little bit about the product roadmap and some very exciting things that are coming up. The first one that we should mention is Nansen points. And so relatively soon, at least this quarter, we are going to launch the first season of Nansen points. And just to be very clear on how you can accrue points even today, there are three main ways that you can do that. Number one is you can subscribe to Nansen. Number two is you can stake with Nansen. And number three is you can refer other users to Nansen, for example, through the affiliate program. we're going to launch soon a more kind of permissionless way to help people share referral links and so on. But you can also sign up to be an affiliate if you today want to get your own personalized link and refer people to Nansen. So those are the 3 ways that you can earn Nansen points. And we're keeping track of all these things now, even if we don't have the points balance available in the UI. But that's the thing that's going to launch later this quarter. And I don't want to spoil kind of too much about the program, other than to say that I think it's going to be the most valuable loyalty program in crypto. That's the ambition. And we're going to be ramping it up gradually, right? We're not going to like spill all the beans on day one. There's going to be incremental value added to the program as we go. But there is no reason to wait because we're calculating all these points in the background through the on-chain activity from staking, but also through, of course, like the payments of the subscriptions and all these different things. So that's points. And there's going to be a lot more that we're going to share there later on. But the call to action is basically to do those 3 things. Then the second thing that I wanted to talk about, and we can perhaps move into a bit of a impromptu demo, and let's see how this goes, because this is very raw, and this is like I kind of like to use these live streams as a way to show off stuff that maybe is not totally finished, and stuff that we're working on that you soon will have access to. And so some of you might be using AI products. I hope you are. You should be using AI products, right? So obviously most people will be familiar with ChatGPT, with Claude, and so on and so forth. And one AI tool that I use a lot, and many other people do as well, although it's sometimes thought of as more of an engineering tool, is Cursor. So I thought it could be cool to bring up Cursor, if you can see my screen now, and imagine if you could use Nansen from any AI product. So one common complaint we get with Nansen is that it's kind of difficult to use, right? It's like, where do you start, and which section should I go to answer this question, and all these different things. So it would be pretty cool if you could just talk to an AI agent as if it's your research team or your research analyst, and that AI agent has direct access to the best labeled real-time multi-chain on-chain data in the world, right, at its fingertips. And it knows how to kind of ask any question to this data, and it knows how to be helpful as a research assistant in general. So, you could ask it open-ended questions like, list the hottest tokens trending right now. I'm going to ask that question, and I don't know if this is going to work, but let's see. So what we've done here is we've connected Cursor to Nansen. And you could do the same thing with Claude, actually, or even ChatGPT and other AI tools. So list the hottest tokens trending right now. It's a pretty vague statement. I'll find the trending tokens for you using Nansen data. It's searching for the right questions, and let me get the trending tokens for you by using the token screener. Cool. Which shows actively traded tokens. Here are the hottest tokens trending right now on Ethereum, sorted by smart money inflows. USDC, ETH, USDT, and then a bunch of other things. And maybe I can say something like, I only care about meme coins. I don't know if this is going to work, right? But let's see if you can do that. Let me search specifically for trending meme coins for you. And so now it goes back and sees if it can do that. I kind of suspect it's not going to be able to do this, but sometimes I've been impressed that it figures out how to do it. And so you can see what's happening under the hood. It's kind of looking at different sectors and so on. Now let me look for more specific meme coin trends. Again, who knows? I don't know if this is going to work. It's actually, I've literally not tried it before. No, let me try a different approach. Okay, so it keeps trying. and it's playing around with kind of the API endpoints it has at its disposal. It tries to search for which questions to use. So maybe this is like too difficult. Oh, there we go. It wasn't too difficult. Based on the data, here are the top 20 meme coins by exchange inflows on Ethereum, Pepe, Turbo, SHIB, SPX, Nero, and so on with the data. And that's pretty cool. Actually, let's do this on Base. Let's do this on Solana. And you can kind of see, right? It's a completely different way of interacting with the product. And it's pretty amazing because it's just so flexible, but it's relatively snappy. And it's almost as if you have an expert that knows exactly where everything is in Nansen. And it could just answer stuff like on the fly for you. And so on Solana, Fartcoin, Trump, Bonk, Troll, Popcat, Cerebro, it's using exchange inflow for some reason. Let's use smart money flows, not exchange flows. Right? And again, like you can kind of just do this. But you can even like take a step back, which I've sort of tried out before, and maybe let's just see if it actually gets this. Let's try meme coins and Solana based on smart money flows instead. And it's executing a question here, trending tokens right now. Okay, smart money inflow. Cool. Nailed it. Amazing. Here's some other notable ones. I'm not going to read the names of some of these coins. But yeah, it's pretty amazing if I'm being honest. And this is still like it's work in progress. We're like experimenting with this in the kitchen and in the labs. But the idea is to get this out to end users relatively soon, starting with the professional subscribers who will get beta access to our API first, and then later on to this Nansen for Agents capability. For those of you who are kind of deep into the AI world, this is effectively a model context protocol, an MCP. So it's the Nansen MCP, and it's going to launch on the back of the API relatively soon. So if you're interested in this, the professional subscription is where to go. And if you're already a professional subscriber, you can ping James or someone else in the investor growth team, and they will put you up for a beta access to the API first, and then the MCP later on. But I kind of want to take a step back here and like say something like I have a prompt that I've already written here, so I don't have to type this out. Oh, sorry. Let's do that again. Oh, damn. It actually doesn't want to copy like that. Add to chat. No. Okay, that's kind of stupid. Let me just do a really quick thing here in the background. Okay, I'm just literally copy pasting. Ah, damn. It seems to. Okay, whatever. I'm an on-chain investor with access to all of Nansen's data. Help me create 10 alpha generating questions I can ask myself to make a good investment on chain. Write these 10 questions to a file called ideas. I'm going to call this like new or trading ideas. And let's see if I do it now. No, god damn it. It doesn't want to copy it the way I, let's see, new trading ideas. There we go. Okay, cool. I got it. New trading ideas.md. It's like a text file markdown, and include why these are good questions to ask. So now it's not gonna spend a lot of time in Nansen yet, but it's gonna help me figure out what are some like alpha generating questions I can ask. And so it's gonna start thinking, and maybe it'll start looking at what data we have available, right? That's what I would do. And so using Nansen's data, okay, so it probably knows a little bit about our things like smart money and on-chain and stuff like that already. So it's writing here, right? But we can see new trading ideas. Let me just maybe view this. Let's see here. Where is it? Open preview. Okay. Okay, cool. 10 alpha generating questions for on-chain investing. Which tokens have seen significant smart money accumulation in the last 7 days? Which DEXs have experienced the highest volume growth in the past month? What NFT collections have the highest whale wallet retention rate? Which tokens show a divergence between on-chain accumulation and current price action? Token contracts have attracted the most unique wallets with at least $1,000 in assets, etc. And it's like why it's valuable. Early adoption by high value wallets can signal promising new projects before they achieve mainstream recognition. Okay, I like that one. Cool. Let's answer question 5. Now let's see, can it actually do this with our data? I'll help you answer question 5 from your list. Which new token contracts, blah, blah, blah. Let me search for questions specifically about new tokens in high value wallets. And so it's doing this for me now. And so you can imagine just like being totally in the zone, like the flow and creativity that you can get as an investor by working with an agent like this. And then it having access to, frankly, like I said, the highest quality on-chain data for all of the chains you care about, with 400 million labeled wallets and more. And it's all real time. It's not like a snapshot from last week. It's literally up to this very second that it can get answers to these things. So it's pretty amazing. Now I'm seeing that it's struggling a little bit to answer this particular question, which is good. That seems we've managed to kind of hit a ceiling on its capabilities here. But it's still early that we're building this, and I might stop it in a moment because I think we've based on our research. Okay, I'm gonna just stop it here because we're running out of time. But hopefully this shows what's going to be possible relatively soon with Nansen, where agents can use Nansen and you can speak with the agents. And I was using Cursor, but you could have done the exact same thing using Claude or even ChatGPT, because we're developing this as a standard that is going to be universally compatible with all the top AI and agent tools. So super excited about this. Stay tuned. It's not launching tomorrow or next week, but it is being worked on very actively. And if you want beta access to this, the way to make that happen is to be a professional subscriber. And then you can ping the team there to make sure you get put on the list of beta subscribers or beta testers for this. All right, back to you, James.
Alex, thank you very much for all that. Appreciate it. For me, this was my first time this week seeing this kind of concept. So I'm quite excited for this myself. I think I can see the evolution of vibe coding, the vibe analysis to eventually vibe trading. We can see this happening with AI. It's quite amazing. It's definitely a new paradigm. I think it's a good time to wrap it up here and head into the Q&A. But I guess before we do, we should just summarize what we went through today. We first looked at some of Alex's favorite features and a couple of features that are time-saving features and where people like Alex like to spend their time. And I think that was quite interesting to see some of these newer features that are on the horizon in token God mode that Alex is interested in. And I myself am interested in, and I know a lot of our users will be interested in. A reminder, the first people to get access to those features will be the professional users. They'll get those features in token God mode 2 weeks early. And then following that, it will be released to the Pioneer users. And if you're not a Pioneer user, but you would like to be a Pioneer user, make sure you scan the QR code, sign up through the Luma, and you may win one of the 3 subscriptions that we are giving away. Those are 6-month-long subscriptions. So you in time will have access to all these new and exciting features that are coming up. So with that, I just want to say thanks again to Alex for all your input here. I think it was really interesting to see where we are going with Nansen, how AI is going to simplify all this for us and save even more time.
My pleasure. Happy to come back on anytime.
Great. We look forward to the next one. And I think from here, we can just look at some questions. So I think the first one I see here, Satoshi Nakamoto. Can you show how to search for labels in Nansen, please? Okay, how to work with hyperliquid data. So I'm not quite sure what you mean search for labels. Perhaps let me share my screen very quickly. So let's see if we are in the Smart Money tab. Okay, very good. We can see a lot of these smart money traders here. We assign labels to almost all wallets, and apart from, let's say, if you see an ENS name, that was not decided by us, that was decided by the user. But basically, these kind of smart trader labels are accessible through these kind of filters in most widgets. So if you're looking to find specific address labels in a widget, you should see if it's available in our label filters. I do believe this might be slightly more advanced because I'm testing out a newer label, let's say label filter, but you will have access to our 180-day, 30-day, 90-day smart trader wallets, our fund labels, and our all-time smart trader labels. On top of that, you can access a lot of these labels in smart alerts. So maybe you only want to receive alerts for the multiple meme coin whales, people that are whales in multiple meme coins. Anyway, hopefully that gives you insight. Yeah,
just
Alex,
one more thing here. Also, just kind of smashing Command K and just using the search bar itself can be quite helpful. So if you kind of just do and you write like Vitalik, for example, you will be able to see. Okay, maybe maybe not the best example. If you write, there we go, Vitalik Buterin. So that's an entity, right? So that's like all of the addresses we have labeled for Vitalik. So that's also one way you can do this. And you can also profile certain labels collectively. But yeah, the search, I think generally the search is also a good place to look for stuff. Just kind of hit Command K and like write in whatever is on your mind, and you might find the right result there.
Yeah, we have a lot of different labels. So hopefully that did answer your question, whether it was about public figures or smart money. But from here, let's move on to the next one. And I believe how to work with hyperliquid data on Nansen. And I actually have a nice address for you here.
Nice.
So I share this tab. Very good. This is coming up now. So this is quite new as well. What you can see here is what this user, what this trader, what this address is holding in their wallets on generally EVM chains. But we know, or I know, that they bridge over to Hyperliquid. And we now have a specific tab in the profiler for Hyperliquid positions. If you're wondering how to get here, I just copy and pasted this address from another online source because I heard about this trader elsewhere and I plugged it into our search bar on Nansen and I arrive here on Profiler. So I can see what this trader is doing over time. And I can see how they performed in the last 7 days. So let's say we can watch their P&L fall or rise in real time. We can see their position distribution. So this person is 100% long. They are irresponsibly long. And they made the right call, clearly. Over the last 7 days, they're up 11.5 million. Let's take a look at how they performed over the last 30 days. So it looks like towards the end of March, they actually entered a loss, an unrealized loss of minus 8.5 million. So this person held through the lows and has reaped the rewards on the other side. And I can now track this trader on Nansen. I can also dive into their positions. They are currently holding Farcoin, Trump, and KPepe. Quite an interesting one. We can also look at their trade performance on other positions. We can see their realized positions and even their losses. We see here there was some losses on Trump down below. But they've made it all back and they're in a good position here. So this really gives you an insight into what this user is doing, how their account is performing, and maybe from there you might want to set up a smart alert. So if you have any other hyperliquid addresses to analyze, be sure to plug them into Nansen and see how they performed over the last 30 days.
And this is also fresh off the press, so this is really new stuff. So people should play around with it, and you'll be one of the first people to use this. So there's a lot of alpha in there.
Yeah. And if you have any feedback, make sure to put it in here. Okay. The next question is, does Nansen have an API? Alex, maybe I'll give that one to you.
Yeah, so it's close to being released in beta. And we are basically taking professional subscribers as beta testers for the API. Probably in the next couple of weeks, we will start letting beta testers into the program so they can start using the API. And we are working very, very intensely on making sure the API can be accessible more widely. But it's going to be exclusive to professionals for quite a while. And in addition to just an API, we're also going to ship an MCP, which is what allows you to connect agents and AI tools to it, like I was showing earlier as an example. So yes, the API is coming very soon. The way to get access to it is to be a professional subscriber.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that, Alex. I'll look into the chat and see if we can find another. I see, Mark, you might have some questions, do you? Let me see if I can answer one for you. So Mark says, what specific Nansen features or dashboards would you say are the most 80-20 for traders? The 10% of the platform that gives 90% of the edge.
I think I can answer this, and it has a very simple answer. Like, actually, there are two features that are the most used, which are token god mode and profiler. Like, if you just had to pick two, those are the two. If you had to pick a third, it's probably smart money. If you just look at the usage of the product, those are the three features: token god mode, profiler, and smart money, which are the most used. And if you wanted to do an 80-20 analysis, those are the 20% that give you the 80% of the value.
Very good.
There's obviously like a lot of other stuff I could mention, but 80-20 wise, those are the three.
Very nice. And then we have one last. In addition to alerts on chain, can it be used for other purposes? What are some recommended techniques? So as of right now, at least, we're very focused on on-chain data. Maybe that will change at some stage in the future, and we may add other sources of data, but that's our primary focus right now. Generally, if you have a question about what is happening on chain, Nansen is the type of tool that can answer it. In terms of what are recommended techniques, I think it's very difficult to give it in a nice, concise answer. So I would recommend, first of all, that you go on to our YouTube and look at our previous webinars, because 1 to 5 webinars before this, there's a lot of knowledge in there. And if you've seen them already, this webinar might make a bit more sense. You can watch them in any order, but it just is helpful. I suppose I'd go with what Alex said today, and probably focusing on learning how to use token god mode is where you'll get the most benefits if you are looking to trade tokens. Okay, and with that, I think we can begin to wrap it up here. Alex, thank you very much again for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll have to get you back on at some stage, and especially if we get the MCP evolved to a new stage, and especially if we're able to get it into a testing phase for some users, it'd be great to see that live in action here.
Totally. Yeah, thanks very much, James, for having me on, and thanks to everyone who watched. You can go to nansen.ai to check out the product, or of course scan the QR code that we've had on the screen there.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much, guys. And if you've scanned the QR code and you've entered the competition, if you win, we will be reaching out via Telegram. And with that, we'll leave you here. Thank you very much for your time. We hope to see you for the next one. We have these things generally monthly, so we've done one every month for the last 6 months. Each time we're taking new topics. If you want to see more of this content, again, I'm going to push you over to YouTube. We have 5 other webinars there that you need to check out. All right, guys, we'll wrap it up here. This was a long one, but a good one today. And I think we got a lot of interesting insights into where Nansen is heading. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thanks,
Until
everyone.
next time.